Good afternoon guys and welcome back. So today we're going to be servicing my 2005 Jeep TJ with the 4 litre straight 6 motor. Alright, so we all like getting out and having adventures, but you've got to keep your car regularly serviced so you don't have any issues when you're out on the trails or on those long trips. So today I'm going to go over the things I check every 3 to 5,000 Ks, depending on how much driving I'm doing and what kind of driving I'm doing as well. So step 1 is going to be removing the old oil and changing the filter. So let's jump underneath the Jeep and drain all the old dirty oil out. Alright, to drain the sump, all you need to do is loosen this bolt here, which is a 17mm socket. Make sure you use a 17, you don't want to be rounding that nut off because you'll be having a long day. So just go along and loosen it off slightly. Loosen it off until you start seeing oil drip out. Don't do it all the way too fast or you'll get oil just pissing out onto the ground. Position the bucket. You can buy these buckets fairly cheap for like $5 from any auto shop. So just position it a bit further back so when the stream comes out, because it's under pressure, it's going to come out like that and go into the bucket. Try and let that drain, then we can start removing the filter. Alright, so to remove the oil filter, I'd position this loosely because you don't want to be fiddling around with it down in there where it's all tight. And also because Jeep has made it that the exhaust sits right underneath the oil filter, I'd get a rag or a piece of paper and actually place it over the exhaust itself, because if you drip any oil on it, it may cause a fire or it will end up burning off and it would smell. So just place a rag over the exhaust, real easy. Pre-position the oil filter remover and you're going to be going left back towards the firewall. Well, that's on my Jeep, it might be completely different on yours, but test it out first. But yep, mine's back towards the firewall. So place that on. So loosen up a little bit, then you'll be able to do the rest by hand. And just be mindful that the actual filter will probably be full of oil as well. And it's out. Alright, so we've got the old filter out, so it's a good idea to inspect the old filter. So the oil's pretty dark. I should have done it probably maybe 1,000 Ks ago, but make sure there's no metal shavings sitting on top of the filter there. Doesn't look like there is. Make sure it's not milky texture, make sure it's like an oil. If you've got water in your oil, you've got other issues. So make sure there's no metal shavings in there. It's all looking pretty good. Nothing that I can see. So that's looking really good, so it's time to put the new filter in. Alright, so there's a couple of things I do before I put the new filter in. I've got the new filter here, make sure it's the same one as the one you're taking out. It doesn't have to be the same brand. I just go with what I get from Super Cheap. I've been running these for ever since I bought this car, so almost 2 years now, and they've been really good. They're about $16 each, which is pretty good for an oil filter. Pretty generic thing. Comes with a seal. Make sure you take the seal off if you don't be putting it on. So I can get the bloody thing off. Alright, so just pretty generic oil filter there. So there's a couple of things I do before I actually install this. Don't go ahead and put it straight on. So first thing I do is I date it, and I also put the Ks that I put on the actual filter. Then I know exactly when I put it on. There's no miscommunication oh, it might have been this time or it might have been then. So today is the 8th of the 9th, 2019. So it's the 8th of the 9th month, 2019. I think America does it different. They do, so it'd be the 9th of the 8th. We do the 8th of the 9th. So whatever you do in your country, make sure you, a little tip, put it on there. I also put the K's on there, so we're at 170,128 at the moment. Double check that, make sure it's the exact K's. I just put it on the side that I can see it on. I can either see it from the top or bottom, just so that way you got something to reference back to if you didn't end up logging it down in a logbook service or in a little booklet. So the other thing I do is I get a little bit of oil just on my finger, just like that, and I just rub around the edge of the actual filter itself. You don't have to use too much around the ring, and it's just going to give it a nice seal, so when you put it on, it's just going to seal in nicely. And I've done this every service I've done for the last 10 years, so it hasn't failed me yet, so I've always just keep doing it. So now it's time to put the it's time to put the new filter in, don't put the old filter back in. So you just do the opposite of what you did, pulling it off. Just put it on and make sure you don't cross thread the threads that are inside that, because if you do, you're in for a long ass day. So let's put it in, just do the opposite of what you did taking it out. So really easy, really straightforward. Alright, so I've got the new filter in. It's nice and tight. It's not over tight because you can over tighten them, and it can be a pain in the ass to get it off next service. So I've also put the drain plug back in the sump. Make sure you do that. I've done it once before where I've accidentally left it out. Not recently, when I first started doing services on my own cars. I've left it off, started refilling it with the new oil, and it's sort of drained out. Luckily I caught it and I didn't waste too much oil. So put the drain plug back in. Also make sure you put the plug in a position where you can easily find it again. I've spent probably 45 minutes sometimes trying to find the drain plug again. You really don't want to lose your drain plug, because then you're stuffed. But I've done it up. I haven't done it too tight, because you can actually do it up too tight and cross thread and strip the threads inside the sump and on the bolt, and you really don't want to do that. Also make sure you don't strip the top off the nut, because it's going to make it a lot harder to get off next time. So it's time to fill up with the new oil. All I'm using is Chief Oil Cherokee 10W30 semi-synthetic oil. Now I've been using this oil in my Jeep for the past 2 years. I know a lot of people say, what oil should I be using? It really depends on your preference. I don't go too expensive and I don't go too cheap. I just go somewhere in the middle. And 10W30 is the same oil I've been using since I bought the car. I did an oil change on day one, and I've been using 10W30 without any issues, no leaks, nothing for the last 2 years. So it's kind of a preference of what you want to use and what you've been using. So let's put the new oil in. To do that, remove this cap here, and the new oil that I've got actually comes with a spout, which a lot of oil bottles don't. So we'll be putting the new oil in, checking with the dipstick to see how much oil we've got, and that's pretty much it. So let's put the new oil in, check it, and away we go. Alright, so I've just finished topping up the oil now. I've used exactly 5 litres from the new oil container. Now need to check it. Now quick tip, before you fill it up with the new oil, take the old dipstick out and wipe off all the old oil, so then when you check it with the new oil you've got a completely clean surface. So the dipstick is just here right above your oil filter. We'll take it out. Now I've already pre-cleaned it. Now we'll just wipe it off. It's hard with one hand. Wipe it off. Slide it back in. Shake it around. And then we can check it. So I don't know if you guys can see that on camera. It's got two little holes just there. You've got a safety one at the top. You've got a fill one at the bottom. So it's just underneath that fill one. So that's perfect. Let's see if we can put it back in. So that's perfect. Now the other things I'll be checking every 3 to 5,000 Ks is my brakes and my brake fluid. All you've got to do is pop that cap and check if it's past the fill marker there. Also be checking my air filter. Now I need a brand new air filter, but being in Australia they don't actually stock Jeep TJ air filters, so they would have to order one in. I might as well get a good brand one, like a Green Filters or a K&N one, so I'd probably have to order that in anyway, so probably order one of those instead of just getting a stock replacement one. Other things I'd be checking is now when I was doing my brakes, I've already replaced my brakes, so I don't need to check the pads because I know they've already been replaced and they're in good condition. So other things is radiator. I already replaced my radiator not so long ago. So once a week, every Friday, I check my oil level and I check my radiator level as well. Make sure I've got good amount of antifreeze in there, so I've got no overheating issues. Make sure there's no rust or anything like that in there as well. Also check for any leaks around the head, around any gaskets, any cracked pipes or split hoses. Oil change today only cost me $43 for the oil, which is a 5 litre container, and $13 for the filter itself, and it took me probably an hour with filming to do all that. Really easy. Then probably 15-20 minutes to check over everything and make sure everything's in good condition. So the oil I use isn't the best, so if you can't afford the kind of middle grade stuff, don't worry, just buy the cheap stuff. Getting cheap oil is still better than doing no oil change whatsoever. I've known people that have gone years without changing their oil. When they finally do it, they start getting leaks because all the old oil, it has closed up all the small gaps. So as soon as you change the oil, that new oil is so thin and synthetic, it finds all those small holes. And I've seen people change their oil and just gloops out. It's like it's just a big mess. So you don't want to be that person. Change it, even if it's with the cheapest, nastiest stuff you can find. Even you get it from Kmart or the supermarket, whatever. It's better than not doing it at all. So that's pretty much it for today, guys. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please hit that subscribe button. We've got a few things getting released at 500 subscribers that I'm really excited about, so please stay tuned for that. Hit that like button, leave a comment if you've got something to add. I'd love to hear it, and I'll see you next week.